Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Education System Reboot channel. This should be a short one. It's just something I was thinking about over the break. And so the title of this is Handwriting, the Gateway Success Habit. So over the Christmas break, I've had some time with my kids, and I've been trying to my best of my ability to encourage my son to work on his handwriting. And the reason for that is because at one point, a couple years ago, I taught well, actually it was last year, man, time flies, a class that I was just called a wheel class. And originally it was for just sixth graders. And originally it was just supposed to be whatever I wanted to do music-wise. But what I unfortunately sadly discovered by working with sixth graders is most of them had terrible organizational habits. And I just made a decision to make it more about what I call success habits, or just, organizational principles. And by the time I started doing it, for a while, I added a handwriting component, because one of the things I noticed is kids have terrible handwriting. And hopefully throughout this video, and again, I'm hoping I'm going to make it short, is I'm just going to convince us that this might be one specific area where we might want to go back as educators and maybe hyper focus on it, or think about how it compounds over time. All right, so let's just start with this simple principle. Everything in life, in terms of building a habit or a skill, there's going to be a challenge to it, okay? Handwriting is not an easy task. It takes a lot of effort and discipline and practice, right? Just like any other skill, music, sports, whatever. I mean, you have to spend the necessary time to develop the skill. What I like about handwriting, though, is there are clear examples of where we're trying to go, right? So a letter A should look like a letter A, and so by practicing throughout a process that allows kids to practice towards mastery, let's use that word, they can clearly see the improvement, right? So if their letter A doesn't look like a good letter A, then they can work. It's like a music. Okay, I'll just tie in music real quick. At first, we make a lot of mistakes, okay? As we practice more and more and get consistent, it gets closer to the product of excellence, or a professional product, whatever you want to call it. And so again, if we think about setting kids up with good habits for their life, right? Handwriting, in a weird way, I think is the ideal one to hyper focus on. All right, so we hopefully, again, I apologize if I'm a little disjunct. I hadn't thought this all the way through. I'm just kind of, doing it live here and kind of just processing it. But my gut tells me that the majority of teachers, not all, but the majority of teachers, do not spend enough time instilling a habit of great handwriting. Okay. So again, what does it do if we were to do it? It would instill a level of higher expectation. It would instill a habit of grit, because it's not going to be easy for most students. And if it's hard, but they persevere and they get better, they're proving to themselves that if they just give a little extra effort, right, consistent effort over time equals success, they'll get better, right? It's actually the perfect skill for differentiation. And here's what I mean. Let's say you have a class of kids. I'm assuming they're going to be kindergarten, first grade, or whatever. You can go all the way through third, right? So you have a curriculum that says we're going to keep working and kids are improving. Well, certain kids are going to be natural at it and certain aren't. So you lay out the specific goal of, we want every kid to have good handwriting, period. That's the goal. But kids that reach that good, guess what? They can work on cursive. They could work on calligraphy. They could work on expanding that skill to higher levels. So here's please follow this. So my point is if an education system, we said, and again, I don't know the exact timeline, but I'm just going to go from kindergarten to third grade. Let's just say that, I don't know, that we every day practice handwriting. No ifs, ands, or buts. That was part of the routine that we did in education. But we made it clear that kids, their first goal is to, I guess you could call it competency or proficiency, is to just be able to have good handwriting, good, why can't I think of the right word? I was going to say cursive, but what's the opposite of cursive? Just normal handwriting. I'm sure there's print. There we go, print. But the cool thing is if a kid masters that by kindergarten or first grade, then you encourage them to work on cursive. So you would have a cursive curriculum. And then you maybe introduce, let's say they do that, great. They can write in cursive. But again, it's the daily habit. That's what I want you to get out of this video if you think this might be a good idea. It's the daily habit. Now, my son, unfortunately, has already, I think, developed bad habits, and I'm going to I'm going to be careful about how much I push it. So we have a little packet that he uses. It's actually a packet I developed for my wheel class, but it has, letters to trace. It's really simple. I just, found kind of a handwriting font on the computer, blew it up pretty big, and made the ink really light. So they just trace over it. Simple. The bottom line is maybe my son already has a bad habit, which I hope not. I hope we can get him to write better. But this is why it's I think so important. And I saw this time and time again. Every student that I saw in 6th grade that had good handwriting, they fell under that category of clearly a student that had better habits. Kids that seemed unfocused and didn't have what they needed, they had terrible handwriting. Now, causation, correlation, I don't know. I'm not pretending, but that I know. There's probably data out there that studies this. I don't know. So again, I'm just throwing this out there. But there was an obvious connection from my perspective, just anecdotally and looking out, that the students that had good handwriting were also better academic students. Could there be a correlation that we should explore? I think so. Okay. The point is, I think that handwriting is one of those things that we have pushed back and we have unprioritized in the last 20, 30 years. And now we're seeing that negative impact, right? Because consistent effort over time equals success. So with that, in closing, I would highly suggest, or let me rephrase, if for some reason I was forced to teach elementary school, for some reason, I know that to develop the habits I want and the success principles I think are important, my students would focus on handwriting throughout my year, whatever I was teaching them. So if that seems logical to you, I would really recommend that you might consider that, especially if you're an elementary school teacher. But also just the beauty, right? Can kids read cursive anymore, right? Historical documents, right? If we want to teach better history, kids could connect to the Constitution. They could read the cursive. I don't know. There's so many things where I think if we step back and just say, what are those habits, those foundational habits? And handwriting would be one of them. All right. So hopefully that wasn't too long. Thank you for your time. Remember, consistent effort over time equals success. See you later.